Hey there, today I want to show you how to replace the shocks, the front shocks on a 2001 Chevy Suburban. I believe this would go through to a 2006 Chevy Suburban as well. It's a pretty simple procedure, very easy to do on your own. I'll show you the tools and everything you need to do in order to make this happen. It's probably a 30-minute replacement project for you. I went ahead and took the wheel off, excuse me, took the wheel off already. You can see the shock is located here pretty easily. Accessible, and the tools you're going to need, these are what I'm using right now. This is it allows the bolt to go through, so it'd be similar to a deep socket, but it's a 15 millimeter wrench. I've got a crescent wrench, you'll see why in just a minute. I've got a pair of locking vice grip pliers, and then I'm using a 21 millimeter lug nut wrench because it gives me a lot more torque. It actually fits inside here, and you'll see why. So this bolt right here, and I've already loosened it, but that bolt is a 21-inch bolt, or nut rather, and then on the other side of that is a 21-inch bolt, so 21 and 21. And then on the top of the shock, that's that 15, you can push this in, it's a 15 millimeter nut there. And then this wants to spin around when you're loosening that, so I use the vice grips to grab a hold of that, because the way that this is welded on this particular shock, you couldn't get a 15 millimeter wrench on that. So I just grabbed it with the vice grips and locked it in place. As a matter of fact, I'll show you what I did here. I literally took these vice grips, locked it on there like that, and as I continued to torque this through, it wanted to rotate, it would press itself up against this part of the body, and then I'd be able to loosen this up the whole entire way. So just push this through like this, and you can crank this loose. Once this comes loose, you'll see what happens, how easy it is. It's hard to do this with one hand. This bolt comes off, or nut comes off. The crescent wrench, by the way, I use that on this side of this bolt to hold it in place, and did the same exact thing. When I would torque that nut, or that bolt, or nut, yeah, nut, I get them all mixed up, with the 21-inch, 21 millimeter socket, it would want to spin around and spin around. So having that crescent wrench on the other side prevented that from happening, and I was able to remove that. Once you get these two bolts removed, it's quite simple. This just comes right out. This one up top comes off, and then you just loosen it from the bottom down here, and then it slides right out. Now you want to make sure that your replacement part, of course, is the right one. I'm sure you would do that beforehand, but I always double check before I put it back on there. Lay them out side by side. The size is right. This OEM Spectrum is pretty decent price tag on AutoZone or Discount Auto Parts. It comes with that. It comes with some rubber spacers, but I'm going to leave this one here that comes from the factory. It's still in really good shape. I've been inspecting it. It's pretty good all the way around. So I'm going to leave that in place and connect it on. So that's pretty much it. You just do everything in reverse, and you can put your shock right back in. Hope that helps. Okay, so I want to show you a little trick when you're putting it back, the new one back in, because it could be a little tricky. The way that this is compressed, it does not want to stretch out, you know. In other words, you'll see what I mean when I put this up into this part here and then align it to the bottom down here. If I were to align the top piece where I could put this the nut back on, it'll be too high to align the nut and bolt on the bottom. You can try to lift up the rotor in order to bring that in line. Or I found it's a little bit easier to put this piece in first. If I can do this with one hand. It's easier to put that piece in first, tighten it down. Sorry about the camera angle. Tighten it down well, and then put the tire back on, or if you wish to put the tire back on, you can do it because you can turn it sideways and get plenty of room. And then when you release the pressure from the jack and bring it back down, the tire itself will lift this back up and compress this all the way in here. So it'll compress that piece up inside there just as you need it, and you can tighten it down at that point. So you can turn the wheel if need be and get it out of the way. But that's my tip to make it a little bit easier. Put that bottom piece in first, put everything back together again, and let that compress down. Or, like I said, you could take a jack and put a block of wood up underneath that rotor and lift it up. So hopefully that tip helps you out.